What's up, gang? We are back taking a look at some more NBA player props over on PrizePicks. I've got some first half options for you and a full game option. All of these guys are centers, so we're going with the big men today on Wednesday's slate. My name's CJ Curry. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel. Let's get right into the picks and see what options you should be considering today over on PrizePicks. Now, if you're not playing on PrizePicks yet, it's a great time for you to get signed up because PrizePicks is still running their Play $5, Get $50 back promotion. Basically, the first $5 that you play after making a deposit on PrizePicks, whether you win or lose, they're going to give you $50 back, which is basically 10 times on your investment. So who wouldn't love that type of return? So if you're not on PrizePicks yet, go down to the description of today's video, use that special link, use promo code CJ Curry, get started right now. And on top of that promotion, they're also running a Patrick Mahomes free square. If you guys aren't familiar with these free squares, well, it's pretty simple. Patrick Mahomes needs just one passing yard in order for him to cash this pick out. So when it comes Super Bowl time against my Philadelphia Eagles, the first pass that he completes, this will be a green check in your entries. So definitely take advantage of this. Most people can put $25 to $30 on this pick. So lots of opportunity there for you to turn this into a profitable play. All right, what are we looking at for the NBA today? Well, that is a great question because there is quite a few NBA games for us to talk about. But let's start with these first half options that I have lined up for you. And we're looking at Sacramento Kings big man Domantas Sabonis. And the reason I'm looking at Sabonis, and I'm looking at Sabonis for just first half, well, this game has a high chance, high probability, as do a lot of these NBA games recently, of blowing out, meaning this could get out of hand. This might be a game where Sabonis doesn't get his full complement of minutes. Obviously, the Philadelphia 76ers are dealing with a number of different injuries, including the likes of Joel Embiid, who's still not ready to make his return yet. Paul George is also on that injured list. And you've got Andre Drummond, another one of their big men. So that kind of leaves the Philadelphia 76ers pretty thin, pretty short-handed. And not to mention, they just played last night, so they're going to be on a back-to-back. Fatigue will definitely be a factor as the Sacramento Kings come marching into town. So I'm looking at Domantas Sabonis for more than 22.5 first half points, rebounds, and assists. Now, I've pulled up his game logs from this season over on Outlier. If you're interested in trying out Outlier, I've left a link for you down in the description of today's video. You can get a 7-day all-access free pass. Give Outlier a look if you're looking to level up your player prop research game. But taking a look here at Domantas Sabonis this season, 43 games he's appeared in, 25 out of the 43, he's gone over 22.5 first half points, rebounds, and assists. Now, things have really heated up for him toward the latter part of these 43 games, meaning the first dozen games or so, he kind of came out sluggish, kind of came out slow, but he's really amplified and stepped his game up, going over this number at a really high clip in his last 20 games. And we can isolate those last 20 games by using Outlier. So when we look at just the last 20 snapshot, well, you got an 80% hit rate. So every 10 games roughly that he appears in, he goes over this number of 22.5 first half points plus rebounds plus assists. So that is a very strong number, and he's averaging 25.75 first half points, rebounds, and assists in that 20 game sample size. So a lot to love here about Domantas Sabonis. As I mentioned, no Joel Embiid, likely no Andre Drummond, which leaves Guerschon Yabusele as their only center. And if he's hurt, because he did get banged up last night, well, that really leaves them thin with Adem Bona as their only big man in that lineup. So I expect Domantas Sabonis and the Sacramento Kings to game plan around that, to take advantage of this soft, squishy matchup against Yabusele and Bona. So not two names that will keep you up at night if you're Domantas Sabonis. So I like that one. That's a good start as far as a first half only option. Now, we're staying with the first half only option. We're staying with the European first half only option. Now, I do have to warn you that this guy, as hot as he's been, this pick has been bumped. Now, I took this earlier, actually late last night, at 9 first half points, but I think it's still viable at just 10 first half points for a number of different reasons. One, because there's a chance that possibly Al Horford and or Jason Tatum will sit tonight going up against the Chicago Bulls. Both guys are currently listed on the injury report. If one or both, especially Tatum, is out, that's going to mean big things for guys like Kristaps Porzingis and the rest of the Boston Celtics in the starting lineup. Guys like Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and even maybe Drew Holiday to some extent, but especially Kristaps Porzingis. And on top of that, he's done a really good job at clearing 10 quite easily. He's just been on fire lately, especially in the first half. And honestly, he's matchup proof. Not that this matchup is an overly difficult one. The Chicago Bulls, not a very strong team defensively, especially when you factor in Nikola Vucevic at center. Guy's not known for his defense. He's known for getting buckets and rebounds. 20 and 10 type of guy, but not an all defensive team type of guy is Nikola Vucevic. So love the matchup here for Porzingis, but yeah, I did want to caution you that this was at 9 first half points. It is now at 10 first half points. But again, I'm mentioning it still because taking a look at the numbers here over on Outlier, Porzingis is on an absolute tear, a heater this season, especially when you consider first half. He's gone over the first half points of 10 in 77% of the games that he's appeared in, 11.68 points per game per average over the course of that 22 game span. And right now he's currently riding a pretty darn good hot streak. Over the last 10 games or so, my guy has hit in 10 straight games. So you got to love what you're seeing here when it comes to Kristaps Porzingis and the consistency. I mean, it's not like he's barely going over 10 or that he's landing right on 10 when he does do well. Most of these games, he is going well over 10, 12 points, 16 points. He's got 13, 14, 17 points in his game log. So he's been really, really good. And of course, the matchup against opposing centers, like I said, one of the better ones. They rank 28th to the Chicago Bulls when it comes to points per game allowed to the center position. So can't really ask for a much better matchup than this. Now, speaking of matchups, in terms of the head-to-heads, he's also done really well. This season, he is 3 for 3 against Chicago and Nikola Vucevic. He has gone over 10 first half points pretty easily here, scoring 14, 12, and 12 in all 3 of the matchups against Chicago head-to-head this season. So again, gotta love what you're seeing here for Kristaps Porzingis, especially if Jason Tatum and or Al Horford sit out like they're expected to potentially do. So that's your second pick, really liking Kristaps Porzingis at 10 or more points. And then your third and final pick, this one's kind of more of a full game pick, but as I mentioned, we're sticking with the bigs. So let's go over to the NBA full game player props, and we'll talk about Jalen Duren of the Detroit Pistons. Now, there's a number of different ways you could play Duren, and these all look pretty darn good. I'm looking at the points, rebounds, and assists. I'm considering the points and rebounds, or even just the rebounds on their own. Like, all of these seem like pretty strong options for me because of his historical success against guys like Miles Turner and especially against these Indiana Pacers. So Jalen Duren across the board looking like a really strong option based on some of the recent form he's shown. Been showing good form, been playing better basketball over the last few games, and again, based on those head-to-head matchups. So let's take a look at this one a little bit closer. Again, we'll go over to outlier.bet. Just taking a look at the head-to-heads first and foremost here against the Indiana Pacers. He's done really well. His last 5 matchups against the Pacers, we're looking at the points, rebounds, and assists at 25.5. He's gone over in 5 out of 6 games. He has gone over the rebounds against the Indiana Pacers head-to-head in 6 out of 6 games. 13, 12, and even 17 boards in his most recent matchup against Indiana from this season. So doing a really good job in pretty much every category. If you wanted to go points and rebounds, I wouldn't fault you there as well. I mean, this one's another one. 5 out of 6 against Indiana, 83% hit rate. So again, he just typically dominates. Now, just because he's done this in the past doesn't necessarily mean he's going to do it tonight, but That's why we take a look at like the player projections as well. We take a look at some of the sportsbook data as well. And that kind of gives us more of an indication of how Jalen Duren might perform. But I wanted to point out that the head-to-head matchups have been good. Now, in terms of the season, the numbers have been kind of shaky here for Jalen Duren. I ain't gonna lie. But over the last like 5 games or so, like I said, he's gone over in 4 out of the last 5 in pretty much all of these statistical categories. Did have a bad game against Orlando, but Orlando is just typically known for being a little bit more difficult of a matchup when it comes to anybody, really, but especially if you're a center like Duren. But outside of that Orlando game where he kind of stunk it up, Phoenix, Houston, Atlanta, and Cleveland putting up some big numbers against some pretty tough teams across the board. So that's kind of a recent snapshot there of Jalen Duren. Let's go take a look at some projections and sportsbook data. The first projection that we'll take a look at is over on RotoWire. Now, when we type in Jalen Duren's name, you're going to see a lot of props that are leaning more, or in this case, leaning for the over. You got the points, rebounds, and assists looking like the top option available for you over on RotoWire. You could even go points if you wanted to. Rebounds and assists are in play. Points and rebounds, and just the rebounds, which are sitting out at 11.5 today. So RotoWire liking them some Jalen Duren overs. And I kind of am too, based on what we know he can do against this Miles Turner-led front court. Taking a look at some other projections for Jalen Duren. For this one, we're going to go over to shot quality. Now, they've got Duren at 24.39 points plus rebounds, 26.55 points, rebounds, and assists. Just the rebounds on their own, 11.68. So most of the things are trending over most of the categories here for Duren. So that's a good look. Taking a look at another site, we're going to go over to Fantasy Labs for this one. They like him to go over his points line, 11.5. He's projected for about 13.1. If you wanted to go points and rebounds, he's projected for 24.4 points and rebounds versus a line of just 22.5, 23.5 on some sites and books. You could even go points, rebounds, and assists, where he's at 26.4, only 25.5 over on PrizePicks, and then the rebounds on their own, 11.3. The line is 11.5, so that one's probably a little bit sharper, maybe not as much of a betting edge or advantage for us. So maybe you go PR or PRA versus just the straight rebounds on their own. But nonetheless, things looking really good here for Jalen Duren, and so I wanted to mention that one. And look, the betting public seems to like Jalen Duren as well. They bumped him from 25.5 to 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists. So actually, now that that's been bumped, I would probably rule that one out and just stick to either the PR or potentially just the rebounds. But if I had to like really narrow it down to one, maybe it'd be the PR. But, these guys got to still go out and they got to get the job done. But if you like what I've did for you in today's video, thank you so much for supporting by leaving a like, by subscribing. All of that stuff goes a really, really long way to help growing the channel. And I appreciate everything that you guys do for me. And hopefully you appreciate what I do for you. We'll see you in another video real soon. Good luck on your picks, plays, and parlays. If you're in Dub Club and Discord, links down in the section below. I'll see you guys on the inside. Peace.